It was supposed to be an ordinary flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, but less than an hour after takeoff, flight MH370 simply vanished. 239 people disappeared into the night sky, and the world is still asking, how? March 8, 2014, Kuala Lumpur International Airport. It was just after midnight. The airport buzzed with its usual rhythm, rolling suitcases, boarding calls, sleepy travelers clutching coffee cups. On the departure board glowed the words, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, Gate C1, Destination, Beijing. Inside the boarding area, passengers filtered in. Families, business travelers, tourists heading home. Among them was Philip Wood, an American tech executive. He texted his girlfriend back in Texas, "Taking off soon. Love you." Another passenger, a young Chinese couple on vacation, took a quick selfie at the gate, laughing. No one around them had any reason to suspect they were about to step into one of aviation's greatest mysteries. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a 53-year-old veteran pilot with decades of experience, greeted the crew with his usual calm smile. His co-pilot, First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, just 27, was making one of his final training flights. They went through the routine checklist, flipping switches, running diagnostics, their voices steady. Flaps, set. Fuel, checked. Navigation, ready. To the control tower, it was just another uneventful departure. At 12:41 a.m., flight MH370 lifted off from the runway. The Boeing 777 soared into the humid night air, carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members. Families in Beijing waited for morning arrivals, unaware that they would never see their loved ones again. At 1:19 a.m., as the plane crossed into Vietnamese airspace, a final voice came from the cockpit. "Good night, Malaysian 370. It was the last normal radio transmission. Minutes later, MH370 disappeared from civilian radar. At 1:21 a.m., just 2 minutes after the co-pilot's calm, "Good night, Malaysian 370, the plane's transponder, the signal that identifies an aircraft to air traffic control, suddenly went dark. One moment, the green dot glowed on the radar screen. The next moment, it was gone. Vietnamese controllers tried contacting the flight. Silence. Malaysian air traffic control attempted again. Nothing. It was as if the Boeing 777 had been swallowed whole by the night sky. What most of the world didn't know, at least not immediately, was that MH370 hadn't simply disappeared. Military radar later revealed something chilling. The plane had turned sharply west, away from its flight path, crossing back over Malaysia. Instead of heading toward Beijing, it was flying into darkness, toward the Indian Ocean. Imagine being a passenger at that moment. The cabin lights dimmed, people were dozing off. Maybe a mother pulled a blanket over her child. Maybe a businessman reclined his seat, preparing for a long flight nap. They would have had no idea the plane was turning off course, heading somewhere unknown. In Beijing, families gathered at the airport, waiting for their loved ones. The scheduled arrival time passed. No plane, no announcements. Anxious whispers filled the terminal. A man clutching flowers kept glancing at the arrival board. A young woman kept dialing her husband's number, hearing only, "The number you have dialed is not in service." By dawn, reality began to sink in. Flight MH370 wasn't coming. The search begins. At first, authorities assumed it was a crash. Rescue teams prepared for wreckage recovery near the South China Sea. But as hours passed, confusion deepened. There was no debris, no distress calls, no emergency beacons. And then came the revelation that changed everything. MH370 had flown for 7 more hours after losing contact. 7 hours. Somewhere over the vast ocean. March 8, 2014. By sunrise, dozens of ships and aircraft were scouring the South China Sea. Families crowded around TV screens, waiting for that one headline. Wreckage found. But the ocean gave up nothing. No floating seats, no oil slicks, no black boxes. It was as if a 300-ton airplane carrying 239 people had just evaporated. When military radar revealed MH370 had flown westward instead of north, the search area exploded in size. From the jungles of Thailand to the Indian Ocean's endless blue, 26 countries mobilized. Satellites scanned from above. Submarines listened from below. Ships dragged sonar arrays across the ocean floor. The operation became the largest, most expensive search in aviation history. In Beijing, families were housed in hotels near the airport. Every day, officials gave briefings, cold, technical, and often contradictory. One father screamed at a Malaysian spokesperson, "Tell us the truth! Where is my son?" A mother fainted as cameras rolled. Others clung to each other, refusing to leave the lobby. Every night, hotel corridors echoed with the same question whispered again and again. How can a plane just vanish? With no answers, the world turned to speculation. Mechanical failure? But how did the plane keep flying for 7 hours? Hijacking? But why no demands, no claims? Pilot suicide? Some investigators pointed to Captain Zahari Shah's flight simulator at home, which contained a route eerily similar to MH370's final path. Military cover-up? Conspiracy forums buzzed with rumors of secret cargo, espionage, even UFOs. Each theory brought more heat, but no light. Then came a breakthrough. Data from British company Inmarsat. By analyzing handshakes, automated signals between the plane and a satellite, investigators traced MH370's final hours. The path ended deep in the southern Indian Ocean, one of the most remote, unforgiving places on Earth. A chilling message followed. The flight ended in the Indian Ocean. For the families, it was devastating. How do you mourn without a body, without wreckage, without proof? July 29th, 2015. 16 months after the disappearance, a strange discovery shocked the world. On the shores of Réunion Island, off the coast of Africa, locals found a battered piece of aircraft, a flaperon from a Boeing 777. The ocean currents had carried this ghostly fragment across thousands of miles. It was the first physical proof that MH370 had indeed met its end. Over the next few years, more fragments washed up on beaches across the Indian Ocean. Madagascar, Mozambique, Mauritius. Some were interior cabin panels, others were wing parts. Each one carried salt stains, barnacles, and haunting silence. Families wept as images appeared on news channels. For them, every shard was both hope and heartbreak. Proof the plane was real, but still, no bodies, no full wreckage, no closure. International teams examined the debris. Some clues suggested a high-speed crash into the ocean. Others hinted at a controlled landing. The contradictions only deepened the mystery. The final report in 2018 concluded with a line that frustrated millions. The reasons for the disappearance cannot be established with certainty. Imagine, after years of search, billions spent, and endless suffering, the official answer was simply, "We don't know." In Kuala Lumpur, Beijing, and beyond, families gathered for the report's release. A widow whispered through tears, "I don't want statistics. I want my husband back." A young boy, now 5, looked up at his mother and asked, "Is Daddy still flying?" There were no words to answer him. The legacy of MH370. MH370 wasn't just an aviation disaster. It was a reminder of how fragile modern certainty can be. We live in an age of satellites, GPS, instant communication. Yet somehow, a massive aircraft carrying 239 souls vanished without a trace. For aviation, it sparked reforms: better satellite tracking, real-time black box data streaming, stricter communication rules. But for the world, MH370 remains a scar. A story unfinished, a mystery unsolved. Even today, more than a decade later, the ocean keeps its secret. Did the pilots fight to the end? Were the passengers aware, clinging to hope in their final moments? Or did it all end silently, in the dark skies above the Indian Ocean? We may never know. But what we do know is this: MH370 is not just about loss. It's about the strength of families who still fight for answers, and a reminder that even in an age of technology, nature and fate can still outwit us. When governments say we don't know, the human mind refuses to accept it. Silence creates a vacuum, and that vacuum is quickly filled with theories. For MH370, the theories range from logical to downright unbelievable. But each one has its own believers. Theory 1. The pilot suicide. Many investigators quietly lean on this. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, the senior pilot, was respected and skilled. But was he hiding a secret depression? Some believe he deliberately diverted the plane, locked out his co-pilot, and flew into the ocean. Evidence? A simulator at his home had a practice flight path eerily similar to MH370's final path. The mysterious, calm voice at 1:19 a.m. saying, "Good night, Malaysian 370." Was that the voice of a man saying goodbye? But others refuse this theory, calling it an insult to his memory. Theory 2. A hijacking gone wrong. Another camp believes hijackers took over. But who? Terrorists? A rogue passenger? A hidden stowaway? Yet no group ever claimed responsibility. And usually, hijackers want an audience. MH370 vanished silently, without demands. Still, the possibility lingers, especially since the plane's transponders were switched off with chilling precision. Theory 3. The U.S. military base. This is where things turn wild. Some theorists argue the plane was heading toward the secretive Diego Garcia base, a U.S. outpost in the Indian Ocean. Why? Maybe it was mistaken for a threat. Maybe it carried sensitive cargo. In this theory, MH370 was shot down and the world was never told. Of course, the U.S. has denied this completely. But for conspiracy believers, denial only adds more smoke. Theory 4. A mid-air disaster. Some experts think the plane suffered a slow decompression. Oxygen leaked, everyone fell unconscious, and the jet flew on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. It's called a ghost flight. Tragic, but silent. This theory explains the lack of distress calls. But critics argue, why were deliberate course changes made, almost like someone was steering? Theory 5. Something not of this world. And then, the most bizarre. Yes, UFOs. Videos popped up online showing orbs of light circling what some claim was MH370 before it vanished. Was it aliens? A government cover-up? Pure fantasy? Probably fantasy. But in the story this strange, people are willing to believe almost anything. The truth? Maybe none of these theories are right. Maybe all contain a grain of truth. The hard fact is, until the full wreckage and black boxes are found, MH370 will remain a story of unanswered questions. The closing words. 239 people boarded a flight that night. They had birthdays to celebrate, families to return to, dreams still alive. And then? Nothing. The ocean took them, or perhaps something else. What remains is not just a mystery, but a warning. Even in our most advanced machines, we are still fragile humans, vulnerable to the unknown. And that is why, even today, the world whispers, "Where is MH370?" Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more untold mysteries.